I can have a motion to approve the plan, and this would be the recommendation of the CNDAB to the city manager.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, plan is recommended. Okay, thank you all very much.
Also, we have a directive from HUD that has told us that we must reduce the percentage of our allocation that goes to code enforcement. It must be under a certain threshold.
Oh,
so we are moving to be in compliance with that.
We voted on a plan tonight. It was passed unanimously, I think, here in the room.
Yes.
What are the major, I talked to some of the people here. They said this is going to revamp completely how they do housing inspection in the city. Am I correct?
Yes, it is.
What is it exactly going to mean?
It is, the plan for actually how housing inspection will occur is not complete yet. The transformation is in process, but part of the change in housing inspection will have to come from the citizens. And we will have to have more reliance on the citizens to take action within their neighborhoods, to almost have a sense of peer pressure to other homeowners, and to create a high standard for their neighborhoods of how properties should be kept and how their yards and everything should be maintained. There won't be as much city staff to go out and do those everyday complaints and things like that. So part of it will have to come from the neighborhoods themselves.
Okay.
The things that you talked about after the meeting was that there's going to be a change in the number of inspectors, and you were hoping to have more citizen participation in maintenance and dealing with complaints. Can you give us a little bit more detail about that?
As for the change in the number of inspectors, I would refer you to the Department of Building Services. They will see a reduction in their budget, and so how they then translate that into how they utilize their funds, that I can't speak to. But there will be a reduction in their budget, which means that just like many organizations and other departments, they have to be able to do more with less.
Do you know when what date they're going to know when that reduction, as far as like funding is coming? Because this is dependent upon
the federal government,
yes.
Right? So we will not know the exact amount of entitlement until they pass the federal budget. It's usually about 6 weeks after the THUD bill, the Transportation and Housing and Urban Development bill, is passed, that we then find out what our allocation is.
Okay.
So even after they pass the budget, it's still another about 6 weeks before we find out. And so until that time, we won't know specifically how much money exactly they'll be receiving, or any of the other programs that we're funding through the action plan. And even if they keep operating on a continuing resolution, that does not necessarily give us access to funds to plan with at that time.
Okay.
Makes it a little complicated.
Citizen participation, such as neighbors giving each other tickets?
The Oregon district has a program, and I don't know all the details of the program, but I do know that they have a citizen volunteer group that goes around and provides neighbors with friendly reminders about perhaps grass level, or maybe there's some debris in the front yard, or paint is obviously not just a little chip, but significantly chipping.
Is there any legal power to the neighbor tickets?
Not really. I mean, basically they say this is just a friendly reminder that your neighbors are, hoping that you'll mow your grass, or that you'll clean this up, and people can voluntarily comply, or they cannot comply. If they do not comply, that is when the neighbors then call housing inspection and say, we have this home in the neighborhood that has violations. We would like an inspector to come out and write a ticket. It's at that point that our housing inspection department has legal authority to take action.
You haven't heard any complaints from people that they feel bullied or, picked out or anything like that?
Oh, you know, obviously people want to keep the guy who like keeps refrigerators and 17 dogs in his front yard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, is there a mechanism for like to keep that in check, to keep Bertha Busybody from becoming the neighborhood tyrant? Because you know sometimes, and I know in neighborhood associations, some people get in because no one else runs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean I think the way there is in the Oregon district at least, there is a committee and they set standards and they have a written ticket form. I actually have not seen the written ticket form, but they do have a written document that kind of guides the group that goes out and does the inspection. So I think when you have that group that's working together kind of by committee, that it offers more guidance and probably would hopefully prevent that one person from just kind of maybe being a little bit overactive and, you know, citing individuals. And they focus on certain issues, high grass or trash or in any alleyways if people dump or something like that. They have certain things that they are specifically looking for that they believe directly affect the quality of life within their neighborhood.
And so this has been effective in the Oregon district, and you were talking about seeing if this is something that's replicable in other communities. How have the other neighborhood boards, have you talked about this? Is this something that they want to try?
They're having conversations with the Five Oaks neighborhood, and I think they're just in the planning process right now of looking at how they could implement it in their neighborhood. I think in Five Oaks, it'll be interesting to see if it is replicable in Five Oaks, because I think in Five Oaks you have different issues and different concerns, and also you have a much larger geographical area. So you know, at what scale is it effective? At what scale is it not effective?
Now, we did get around the city to talk to a few people in the different neighborhoods about what they thought. Their thoughts ranged the gamut from, I think it's a great idea, to do not let nosy neighbors get involved. One Oregon district source who we spoke with, a longtime resident of the neighborhood, but who refused to be identified, did say that there were an overzealous few people in the neighborhood who did not seem to have anything better to do than write their neighbors' tickets all day. And like we said, other people thought it was a great idea. So it looks like time will tell as to how this will all play itself out.
Yes, we are looking for different pilot programs, for different ideas, best practices across the country. As we learn to do more with less, we're always open to ideas and to proposals. And
are there any best practices across the country that really interest you, that you've like caught your eye?
Different areas across the country have different ways of helping homeowners, especially owner-occupied units, to do emergency repairs to their homes. So you have a older individual maybe who's on a fixed income, or a young mom with many kids who's on a fixed income, and that person has a violation to their house. What services can we provide, or who can we link them to try to help them do those repairs, and when they have the interest, to bring up the quality and standard of their home. And so looking at those different practices and the best ways to do that is very interesting to us. So not only just telling people they have a problem, but trying to help them realize how they can come to a solution to the problem.
Yeah, do you find a lot of people sometimes finding you may have one person who's like, I can get them a ladder and fix just about anything around here, and then other people who might find home repairs to be daunting.
Yeah.
And we know that we've ran into that situation ourselves.
Yeah. And you know, you run into a lot of older couples or older individuals within the community who just no longer, perhaps, you know, 30 years ago they could just climb up and fix their gutter, or, you know, fix a couple shingles on the roof or something of that nature, but now that task is not easily accomplishable for them. They may not have the financing to do that, and maybe they don't have family in the area any longer who can help them. So those are usually the
the individuals who we find who need the most help
Yeah.
are especially the older population.
I noticed that in the outline of the action plan there was a provision for disabled, elderly people to
Yes.
help them deal with their homes.
And we do have Rebuilding Together Dayton, and they are one of our subrecipients who also receives funding through the action plan, and they are able to help many households throughout the year. They have a neighbor care program where they help about 100 households do very quick, small home repairs, and then they also have the Rebuilding Day that happens in April where they help about 30 households do larger scale repairs, and so that's a great benefit to our community,
Right.
but it's a small number. We would like to be able to do more of that
Right.
within our community.
Right. Okay.